and welcome to Watch Me, folks. Today I have with me the Ball Engineer Hydrocarbon Dive Watch. I figured we'd continue the dive watch comparison with another dive watch which I really like. Let's start with the specs. This is a 40mm wide case. It's under 15mm thick, like around 14 and a half millimeter thick. The lug width is 20mm and the lug to lug is a little long at around 51. However, it's not drastically different from the other watches we had seen. It's almost the same as the Breitling Super Ocean and the Tudor Pelagos. So one thing to note though here are how the lugs taper. This is something I really like with this watch, where the case profile is tapered down and the edges of the lugs are kind of flat. So it has a way of kind of sloping away from you when you wear it, so it doesn't really stand out as a very long lug to lug on the wrist, even if you have smaller wrists like mine at around 6.5 inches. There are 30 gas filled tubes, which is not at all apparent when you take a look at the watch. I mean, when you look at it, it looks like a dive watch with sort of like a sandwich style loom dial. But the way they have done this, underneath the sapphire cover on the bezel and underneath the dial, they actually have flattened tubes. These hold within them tritium gas, which is luminescent gas, and what that does is essentially provide nighttime visibility at all times. It doesn't need to be charged. There's no question of fall off of brightness through the night like your regular super lumino watches. And while by nature it's not going to be as bright as your your Tudor Pelagos and your Seiko LumiBrite looms when it starts off, through the course of the night though, this will be the winner, because this is going to stay the same anytime you pick it up. Rest of the watches will have a slow fade to nothing over time, depending on how well they were charged to begin with. So this has been one of my absolute favorite features with Ball watches, and you can barely tell that these are actually tubes. They're done so well and executed with so much precision that they don't come off as something that was applied on and sort of fitted in. And it really does shine when you put this in a real nighttime environment, and you are let's say you're outside for a few hours, or you wake up in the night to take a look at the watch. Nothing comes close to this. You will find this to be the best legible watch in a scenario like that. So the only drawback to that, which you might have heard, is that tritium does fade, and over the course of its life, the luminescent properties of tritium keep tapering down. So the half-life of tritium is right around 10 years, so it will be half as bright as this in 10 years, tapering down from 100 down to 50. And that to me is not that big a deal. 10 years is a long period of time to begin with, and at 50% brightness, I would say the watch is still going to be quite legible. It's not any different than the loom fade on your regular watches. So I think people make a bigger deal about that than they should. As you can see, it has a very sort of tough look to it. It looks like it can really take a beating. Everything looks solid and done with a certain heft and thickness and purpose, right? The bezel sounds very nice. It has, I would say, the resistance isn't great. It's a little too easy to move. I wish it was a little more notchy and a little harder to click, but as it stands, the clicks are good, and it feels nice, easy to use. The sides on the bezel are nicely ribbed. It's easy to hold on to, easy to grip. I do like that the bottom of the bezel is polished. This is one of the details that I like in some of these watches. And the key feature of the Hydrocarbon series is, of course, the crown. So the way this works is you press it in and it unlocks, and then you have access to the screw down crown, and you can't lock this back in unless you screw the crown back in. So it's like a safety mechanism. There's no way you're gonna forget to put this back. It locks into place nicely. It has a solid feeling click, and it adds to the design element as well. Instead of traditional crown guards, it has a certain appeal to it, which is unique to the Hydrocarbon series. The aesthetic is unmistakable. It classic look. They've had this series for a while. It kind of grew unwieldy in proportions, in my opinion. There are some really large Hydrocarbon watches, which I'm sure has its own fan base, but I'm glad they brought back a more wearable, approachable, clean looking watch. This actually has two they're not spring bars. Essentially, they are screws on both sides that kind of hold the bar together, and they have two of them. This essentially ensures a really secure fit. There is no risk of a spring bar popping out when you're having it on your strap or bracelet. This is one of the common things I worry about with some of the other watches, where you see this flimsy spring bar and you have this NATO strap, and tug in the wrong direction might have it pop out. It hasn't happened to me, luckily, but it is possible, and I've heard it happen to some folks. That's not going to happen here. This is really super secure. There are 4 well machined, screwed in bars that are holding this together, and as you can see, it still works on your NATO straps. There is just enough gap here for you to put in even a thicker strap. The look is good, and it works really well on NATO, in my opinion. It's not a bracelet only watch, as you end up sort of perceiving it from all the online photos and videos. That's the default look for the watch. It comes on a bracelet, but you can actually pull this off on NATO, and it looks quite nice on it, and this is my preferred combination. If you are into thick, heavy, big, chunky bracelets, you will love this. It's machined very well. It feels solid. I mean, much like the watch, it has a very purposeful kind of thick, heavy, chunky feel to it, but in my opinion, it just makes the watch a bit too clunky and heavy, and unless you're into that sort of heavy, big looking style watches, I find it a little more towards the unwearable side when it's on bracelet, and it's because it's all a bit too much for me to handle. I don't like these raised, polished surfaces. They're a complete scratch magnet. As you can see, it just gets so badly scratched up in no time, and the edges on the clasp, they're so sharp, pointy, sharp edges, and in my opinion, a bracelet should not have anything sharp on it. It should be all smooth and nice to feel on the skin. It shouldn't feel like somebody is scraping your skin off, and that's another thing I'm not a fan of. But the cool thing with this bracelet, though, which I think many folks will get a kick out of, is it actually has a diverse extension on both sides. So that's kind of neat. I don't remember seeing many bracelets that actually have a double-sided diverse extension, and the lock mechanism is also very secure feeling. It just feels very nice, and I kind of like the logo, the railroad logo here on it, and that feels nice. It's just that Not a bracelet for me. It's much the same in terms of the actual movement capabilities. They are both chronometer graded movements. However, there are pros and cons for each, as you would imagine. Clearly Breitling is going to have more brand cachet. There's no denying that. If you're into it, good. If you're not, then you can ignore that point. Secondly, the finish. Definitely Breitling does a better job of case finishing, polishing. The polish is just deeper, better done on a Breitling. They specialize in polishing. It's one of their key selling points. And the case edging is also, like I mentioned before, right? It's done well. It doesn't feel sharp on the skin. It doesn't feel they cut any corners on that. It feels well finished. However, where the ball will win out obviously is the loom aspect. I would say even if you shine a bright light on this for a while, it dies off fairly quickly. The loomed bezel with the sapphire cover, along with the loom, the tritium dial, this is amazing stuff, and that's a huge advantage that ball has over the Breitling. And I think personally the bezel looks nicer on this bezel. It's a different look, but it looks fairly pedestrian. It feels nice in person, but I think this looks nicer from a bezel design and functionality perspective. If we were to compare it with our other favorite buddy in this group, Tudor Pelagos. As I mentioned in the other video, there is a very unique aesthetic vibe to the Tudor Pelagos, and the benefit here is that it's titanium, lighter, and probably a little easier to wear. But this does have the thickness, kind of, it sits high. There is something about this that even it does sit high, and the bezel sits a little high, but maybe not as pronounced as the Tudor because of the slab finish style that they have, and the lugs don't really taper down all that much. So I'd say wearability wise, I'd still say this wears a little better on the wrist than the Pelagos. The downside to me on the Pelagos has always been that it's kind of just like a puck sitting on your wrist, and while it looks really cool, it's one of those disadvantages as such. This would be the cheapest of the bunch, and it's a good value at that price point. I mean, you get a lot of good specs with it. If you're not too caught up on the brand as such, I'd say it poses a very good value in that price point. Please like and subscribe, and leave any comments or questions, and I'll try and answer to the best of my ability. Cheers guys, thank you.